Cronan Saga.
Half breathing, half whining, Freddy squinted his eyes open.
Not dead yet?
He shakily reached for a handkerchief to daub the mucus, blood, and bone from his face. Cronan still held him aloft by the collar.
So, what do you say?
But Cronan wasn't looking at him. He was looking through the open elevator door into the dark arena beyond. In contrast to the sleek modernity of the building above, the space in front of him was raw, dark, metallic, and smeared with grease. There was a dim landing in front of the elevator, at the far end of which was a wall of grated metal. Green light filtered through the slats, cutting the oily air into razor-sharp slivers, and the sound of combat poured through its holes. Wordlessly, Cronan let the manager drop in a heap on the floor and walked out towards the light and sound. Cronan approached the wall and through the slat looked down. At first, he could only hear the crowd, a deafening cacophony of cheers, shouts, and drunken howls. Powerful stage lights, tinged chartreuse, cast the room in a sickly glow. As his eyes adjusted, he saw that he overlooked the cavernous substructure of the building, and in its center lay, throbbing with energy, violence, and jazz, the pit. Below him, the chaotic mass of spectators stood, enraptured. In the metal cage of the pit, two men stood locked in primal struggle. A tall, wiry fighter lanced his opponent, a large, broad-backed man in jeans with long, powerful strikes. His fists were quick and precise, each blow cracking the flesh like snapping leather. The crowd roared with each impact. They were unruly. The violence egged them on to excess. They jumped and swung their jackets, pushed and shouted uncontrollably, showering each other with spittle and beer, faces contorted in wild expressions of anger and excitement. Hands grasped at collars, at tickets, at cash payouts, at cage girls, and their tongues tickled where they could. A tingle danced up Cronan's spine. It excited him still. The cheers, the jeers, the screams. This indeed was a place of battle, just like the pits of Tarkus. He had spent years in those dark cells, never having seen the light. An uneducated slave, blindly feeling for life with his fists. In that darkness, the only certainty was the struggle of combat, and only victory was his sustenance. Again and again, he had earned his right to live through struggle and blood in those cursed pits. And yet, Cronan curled his fingers around the metal, drawing his face closer. The green light mapped the topography of his rugged features against the black unknown. Some sight, ain't it? Freddy had joined him, his face too now striped in green. Cronan grunted in affirmation. But where is the jazz maker?
He's,
Freddy looked into the darkness.
he's watching. He's, watching. But if you beat the champ, he'll want to make a contract. He'll come to you.
He paused.
There's only been one other champ.
Below, the big man now had gained the upper hand. He straddled the wiry fighter, pinning him to the blood-streaked floor as he struck. His massive fists hammered down in merciless arcs, each strike landing with a sickening thud. The wiry man thrashed beneath him, desperate to escape, until a cruel hook caught his chin, knocking him stiff, his eyes frozen open.
Yeah!
The big man roared in triumph and continued his barrage, the crowd egging him on. Long after the wiry man had stopped moving, he beat the mass of unmoving flesh, his fists wet pulp red. Thud, thud, thud. He kicked the corpse in a final act of derision, and the pit exploded in chaos. Losers tore up their betting slips, throwing them in the air like confetti, their curses lost in the noise. Winners waved new cash, shouting triumphantly, and promised stimulants and libations to the seductive yet indifferent cage girls.
And who is the champ? These guys, they don't look so tough.
Alex asked, Billy Bird perched on his shoulder. Unconsciously, he was slowly stroking the oily metal, letting it rub between his fingers. Alex felt refreshed. The violent urges he had felt so strongly earlier had quieted with the cooling palliative of blood. Freddy laughed at Alex's confidence. He knelt beside him in a paternal manner, posing for Cronan.
Trust me, kid. These guys are killers. And they're just the undercard.
He paused and saw that Cronan was still looking through the grating. He turned to him.
The champ, he's impressive. But you can take him. We can do this.
Cronan finally looked away from the fight. Though the violence here is respectable, this place is infested with the chicanery of Smoothjahaz. He spit the name out of his mouth like poison. He could sense that walking into the pit to fight would be expected. A trap was surely waiting. The secretary had been too confident, too smooth, too oily. He knew the best way to find the jazzmaker would be by surprise, not in front of a crowd of jazzed-up filth. Infiltrating the Green Dolphin would require its own guile. Cronan inspected the room. The rickety construction elevator that the secretary had mentioned stood to the right. It led from the landing down to the arena below. He inspected the thin layer of oil, shining sickly green, that coated its surfaces. Billy Bird perched on the metal railing.
There's so much jazz here. It's everywhere.
He pecked at the railing.
Fight the champ, Cronan. I believe in you.
Cronan closed his eyes in deep thought for a moment. Then spun to face the manager. I accept your proposal.
Hey, okay.
Freddy began excitedly rubbing his hands together.
Now first we need to register the...
On one condition, interrupted Cronan. Alex will take up the mantle of warrior, he continued, looking at Alex, whose eyes widened with excitement, and represent us in the combat. Alex slowly nodded.
Wait, the kid?
The manager shook his head.
You're out of your mind. I need you, not the little squirt.
I have other matters to which I must attend. I assure you, he is capable. I have seen him grow exponentially in verve and ferocity. Alex smiled and looked at Billy.
Let me show you what I can do.
He touched his Walkman in the darkness.
I can do this.
That's my brother. Let him show you. He has a lot to show.
Caught Billy Bird. Freddy noticed the Walkman and paused. He looked at Alex's blood-caked hands. Edge's blood. He looked back at Cronan again and held his gaze for a long moment, scanning the hard lines of his face. "The boy will win," Cronan intoned. After a period of silence, a low chuckle escaped from the manager.
You got some balls. Christ.
He shook his head.
Fine. Your boy fights.
He leaned towards Cronan and continued in a lower voice.
But don't come crying if they scrape his pieces off the floor.
Freddy slapped the button on the old elevator. He took a deep breath.
Come on, Alex. Let's go down to the cage. It's almost time.
Cronan turned to Alex and knelt. He put Alex's bloody hands in his and looked him in the eye. "Boy, there is shred in you, and it is strong." He looked at Alex's burnt-up scalp and his bloody hands approvingly. "I can hardly believe this young, brave warrior was once but a scurrying titmouse." He playfully slapped Alex's shoulder, sending him stumbling. "Alex, don't forget, you're fighting for more than just yourself. You're fighting for your brother, for your people, and for mine. For the ones who depend on you now, and the countless lives you will save from the horrors of Smooth Jahaz." Alex blinked. His heart beat loudly as Cronan's words settled. "I know you've felt fear, doubt. Maybe you are feeling it right now. But you," Cronan tapped Alex's chest with 2 fingers right above his heart, "you have something inside of you that no one else does. You have the fire. You have the shred. Remember that." Cronan smiled. "And you have a name. Alex. Not many earn theirs. Your name will feature proudly in our songs. Alex, go, take history by the throat and carve your name in it. While you distract our enemies with glorious combat, I will find this jazz maker and destroy him." Alex looked up at Cronan.
I know you don't trust magic, but that's the only thing that can help Billy.
Cronan placed his hand over his chest. "Foul though it may be, I will search for sorcery to aid your brother." Cronan raised his arm. "Billy Bird, I need your guidance." Billy Bird obediently landed on his outstretched arm. "Show me to the jazz." Alex and Cronan exchanged a final look, wordlessly acknowledging the tension, their commitment, the danger, and their friendship. And with that, Alex entered the elevator and began his descent into the pit. Cronan waited for the elevator to move, then grabbed hold of the cable, wrapping his boots around it, and slid down, the faint noise covered by the roar of the crowd. When the elevator lurched into motion, the manager turned to Alex.
All right, kid. You call me Freddy. When we get down there, I'm putting everything on you.
He pulled out a large roll of cash from his jacket pocket.
Now the odds are going to be out of this world. 100 to 1. But they're going to be that way for a reason. You gotta win to make us the money, okay? This fucking street jazz, it won't cut it.
He handed Alex a sleek black Walkman with a black tape inside.
This is lubricated jazz. Do you understand? This ain't your mom's jazz. It's designer stuff. Okay, kid?
In the green light of the arena, The energy pulsed with the rhythm of the fight card and a silent accompaniment of jazz. Shadows undulated against the stone walls and danced along metal pipes. A man bumped into them, his eyes wide, tie undone. Bits of food settling in the recesses of his mouth showered them as he screamed mindlessly.
Yeah, 50 G's, baby!
He pushed a shot of vodka into Alex's hand and then put his arm around a scantily clad green dolphin attendant, trying to stuff some bills into her underwear. They moved deeper into the crowd, towards the iron bars of the pit at its center.
I'll be right back, called Freddy. I gotta let him know my fighter's here. Just get in the cage.
He disappeared into the crowd of jazz junkies and business addicts. The broad, muscular man wearing jeans from the previous fight paced around the pit, spitting and cursing at the audience, who cheered and booed him in turn. His opponent had been dragged out of the cage, leaving a streak of blood. He took a shot of bourbon from a fan.
Southern comfort, am I right or am I right?
He knocked it back, shattering the glass on the pit floor.
Where's the champ? Where's the champ?
He screamed, pointing at the box overlooking the arena. He put his headphones on to get another blast of smooth jazz into his body.
Bring it on!
He screamed. The lights went dim. Alex heard music then. A simple music. A prayer drum. Though he was surrounded in a sweaty throng of people, he suddenly felt cold. Without ceremony, a huge man had stepped into the cage. He wore a cape of snow fox pelts that spanned his enormous shoulders. He moved silently, his mukluks softening his footsteps, his bearded, wide, round face emotionless and pitiless. The man in the jeans screamed.
I challenge you, Tupelak. It may be cold up north, but I'm gonna turn up the heat. I'm gonna make you burn.
There was a massive scramble then of bets being made, drinks ordered, drugs consumed, and various side brawls beginning. Tupelak let his massive cape fall with a thump on the floor. He placed his headphones over his ears, taking deep breaths as he spread his legs wide and ritualistically ran his fingers along the perfect tan skin of his arms and thighs. The man in the jeans, veins bulging and quivering with jazz, looked on impatiently.
Come on already, you fucker! Come on, come on, come on, or I'm gonna get you.
He gestured to Tupelak, who declined to respond, implacably continuing his ritual as though he were not about to engage in blood sport.
You must be scared then.
The Southerner licked his lips.
Well, that's right. Let me show you why. Ah!
He charged forward, closing the distance in an instant, and dipped to the right to dodge any attack. He then came up and unleashed swift hooks to Tupelak's liver and guts before returning to a defensive guard. He peered through his forearms. The giant remained unmoving and breathing meditatively. The man pivoted and attacked again, pummeling Tupelak's kidneys with heavy, thudding strikes that rang through the arena. He struck with bone-cracking force again and again, but still the giant stood. The Southerner roared and abandoned all pretense of defense, instead channeling every ounce of fury into his attacks.
Fuck you! Damn you! Fuck you!
He shouted, punctuating each blow. Dozens of unanswered strikes, an impossible work of violence. The Southerner continued, blow after blow, his skin now slick with sweat, his curses reduced to grunted malice. It was only then that Tupelak the Clean moved. With terrifying calm, he grasped the Southerner in a clinch, clasping his hands behind the man's head, forehead to forehead. He spoke.
I thank you. You awaken me.
The man flailed fruitlessly, his breathing rapid, the fear growing.
This bare skin.
Tupilak looked down slowly at his arms and chest as he absorbed the futile attacks.
It is shameful. Its purity disgraceful. I accept your offering of blood.
The Southerner screamed then in an explosion of fear and rage. But Tupilak silenced him, crumpling his chest with a single uppercut, the force so immense it lifted him off the ground, his body suspended atop Tupilak's raised fist. He gurgled as blood drained from his orifices and emptied onto Tupilak's skin. For a moment, Tupilak paused, tilting his head to watch the Southerner's anguish-ridden expression leak. The terror in his bulging eyes, the sharp lines that pain etched. This was the offering, pure and whole. The giant smeared it across his body, before slamming his opponent down onto the pit floor with such violence that he stirred no longer.
Your blood honors me. It quenches my shameful skin.
He raised his bloody arms.
Now, I am ready for my challenger.
The crowd cheered with manic energy. A spotlight swung to the box, where a thin man with waxed hair, wearing outlandish makeup and dressed in a sequined suit, stepped forward. His clothing flickered green and white spectacularly as his tenor voice rang.
Ladies and gentlemen,
His voice cut through the din.
I have an announcement about our main event. The challenger, Edge, has been defeated.
A murmur spread through the room. Tupilak twisted to glare at the announcer, his expression darkening as the growing rumble of discontent echoed around the arena. Undeterred, the announcer continued.
In light of the challenger's humiliating defeat, I humbly offer you, honored guests, a spectacle that will sate your appetite for violence and burn away any desire you may still harbor for the cancelled bout in a cleansing fire. I present to you, patient viewers, Edge's vanquisher and our new contender. Tonight's battle will test the very limits of blood, the boundaries of cruelty, the confines of sanity.
A ripple of excited chatter rolled through the crowd.
It is the Green Dolphin's privilege to present our new challenger, fresh to the pit, but expert in violence, a young warrior with nothing to lose, Alex!
There was a moment of silence. The audience and the spotlight searched the room for the appropriate figure. Alex was ready. He slammed back the vodka shot and stepped forward. He pushed a man blocking his way over onto the ground as he strode towards the pit.
Him?
Spat a woman, her jaw clenched so tight the tendons in her neck stood out like wires, her blackened eyes manic with jazz. Boos and curses were launched scattershot and in all directions in the uproar. Spittle flew as the crowd surged forward, bodies jostling towards the cage.
Fuck that kid!
Bellowed a fat cat. His booming voice cut through the chaos. He slapped a meaty palm against the bars, his face flushed with rage.
I want a fight! A real fight!
Standing inside the pit, Alex was surrounded. 1,000 leering faces loomed over him, pelting him with jeers and venomous obscenities. For a moment, he faltered, overwhelmed by the torrent of hatred. He was lost. He was only a child. What was he doing here? He had never felt more alone, more in the dark, than standing there in the burning green cage lights, surrounded by the sea of barking faces. Alex's hands clenched into fists at his sides, his nails digging into his palms. For a brief, painful moment, he thought of home, his room, Mom, Dad, and Billy. He would have ruffled Alex's hair and told him it would be okay. He was alone. Alex trembled. He couldn't stop the tremor in his knees or the cold sweat trickling down his back. Tupalak stood before him, blood-soaked and overwhelming. His breath quickened as panic clawed its way up his throat. Alex wavered. But then he remembered. Cronan. The chaos dulled in his mind as Cronan's words filled the void. He had the fire inside him. He had the shred. He was fighting for Billy. He was fighting for Mom. He was fighting for everyone. The fear drained away and was replaced by a calm confidence, a cool resolution that he would rise to meet any challenge, even this one.
Cronan was right.
He raised his arm above his head, slowly, deliberately. He held it there in the midst of the derision. Their words frightened him no longer. He began to turn. He raised his eyes. His expression was cold, icy even. He did not fear their faces, but challenged them. Eyes against eyes. You, a thin man shrieking. You, a hairy howling philanderer. You, the fat cat calling out fuck. You. He turned to see them all, and to be seen by all. His stony gaze raked across the multitude of leering faces, and his words sliced through the cacophony.
I have a name!
The crowd quieted, their jeers smothered by an uneasy hush. Alex lowered his wrist to his mouth and sank his teeth in deep. Against his right, then left cheeks, he smeared his intention, his declaration, his promise. Blood. The hush withered into silence. Alex's intensity had stilled them. His fire cowed them. He stood tall, unflinching, a lone figure in the pit, his blood-smeared face a challenge to every last one of them.
Alex!
The announcer quickly took the opportunity to continue.
Opposing Alex, our reigning champion, undefeated in blood, in pain, and in pure brutality, the icy warrior we give you, Tupalak the Clean!
Muscles rippled beneath his smooth skin, writhing across his body as if alive. His eyes, like black pits of malice, scanned Alex with pure disdain. Your blood is weak. It will do my skin no honor. The announcer grinned maniacally.
Bets are now open! Bets are now open! In 2 minutes, when the cage doors close, the battle will begin!
Cronan stood low, his body pressed against the cold steel walls of the walkway beneath the bleachers. Shadows danced in the flickering light of exposed bulbs, and the air was thick with the scent of oil and damp concrete. blood and sweat from previous bouts dripped down from unknown crevices and landed on his broad back.
It's stronger here. Getting stronger.
Billy Bird said into his ear. Cronan could feel it too. The jazzmaker was surely near. Down here, the air vibrated with a constant hum of jazz. Upstairs it was present, greasy, prevalent. But here, the thick, oily air was suffused with it, pervaded by it. Cronan was well aware of the danger. Every step he took was cautious, every breath measured. As he descended further into the labyrinth of greasy pipes and conduits, the smooth, sickening sound of jazz began to grow louder. A soft trumpet wailed deep within, echoing from an unknown direction, the melody slithering its way through the darkness and wrapping itself around his mind. Cronan shook his head, trying to dispel the intrusive rhythm, but it was everywhere. The substructure seemed to pulse in time with the jazz, the walls breathing with the music. Most disturbingly of all was the slow, constant moan, half in pain, half in pleasure, that followed the notes, sometimes even soloing off of them in perverse improvisations. He followed the sound down the dark, pipelined hallway until he heard voices ahead. The hallway opened up into a wide room illuminated by dim, hazy light. In the center, 3 figures moved erratically, their bodies twitching and spasming in sync with the music. They danced and played together, their skin glistening with sweat. Their eyes glowed faintly, locked in a trance as the music fueled their unnatural movements. The first figure, a towering man with elongated limbs, twitched and twisted, his body bent in impossible ways. His spine arched around every note hanging in the air as he played his demonic horn. Beside him was a ghostly woman with moon-pale skin. Her fingers, long and bony, ran along 2 golden saxophones that she played mercilessly. Her eyes, sinister, wide, and unblinking, stared into the darkness. The third was the smallest, but no less terrifying. A squat, muscular figure with a thick, fleshy neck and veins that bulged unnaturally with every note he breathed into a bone-white clarinet. His chest expanded and contracted grotesquely as he squeezed still more jazz into the air. Cronan's breath caught as he watched them. They weren't normal. They were jazz freaks, their bodies twisted and warped by the very music they produced. One of them, the giant, sniffed the air, his nose pointing in Cronan's direction.